Please bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really sucking that ball. Hitting those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York Town.
And here are your hosts of the MetsCast, Nick Durst and John Brown.
East side, west side, everybody's coming down.
It's the MetsCast, episode 9, right here at WGSports.com. I'm Nick Durst, joined again by John Brown. And John, I think I just maybe broke my finger or something. Speaking of that, just like the New York Mets, totally injured. Everybody's injured. It's ridiculous, John. What is wrong with this franchise that everyone just keeps getting injured? It's insane.
Well, I would say some of it's just freak accident stuff, but, my heart actually really goes out to Lagares there. Hurting your toe on the wall like that sucks. And something like that ending your season also sucks. And I thought, this could be the year that he really figures it out. And, we all know that he can play a great center field. He's a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. It's just, being in shape and being able to hit lefties and really play every day. I thought he was it. This is a huge setback. I just hope it doesn't ruin his career. Some of the other injuries, I think, are mismanaged.
We'll get into the mismanagement because that's a big thing. Just to touch on Lagares, since you brought him up first, we know he's Gold Glove caliber. He won the Gold Glove in 2014, and then all of a sudden he just couldn't hit at all. This year he's actually hitting. He was batting .339. He had 20 hits in 59 at bats. He wasn't really walking too much, but nonetheless he was hitting the ball, and he hurts his foot. Going into the wall, and he is placed on a 10-day DL, which is moving to the 60-day DL because we know he's out for the season now. He's going to undergo surgery. He's not officially out for the season, but he's in danger of missing the rest of the season because he suffered a complete tear of his big toe on the plantar plate. Very crazy stuff there. Very unfortunate. And it looked like, John, it did look like he was turning the corner this season, although he only, as we mentioned, had 64 plate appearances to this point of the season.
Yeah. It was definitely, they were slow playing him. I think Conforto coming back as quick as he did kind of ate into his playing time. But, something like Cespedes going down could have been like an opening for him to really, grab the opportunity by the horns and take that next step in his career. But,
right.
It's really
now let's talk about Cespedes. I mean, every year it's the same thing with this guy, and I'm not even going to blame him because let's say he tweaks his hamstring or his hip, whatever, hip flexor. Then instead of the Mets, and this falls on Sandy Alderson, just putting him on the 10-day DL, and during the time that he gets hurt, the Mets happen to have 2 days off, so he could have took those 2 days off. Took another 8 days off and been back, only missing eight or 7 games. No, the Mets decide that they're going to let him keep playing, and while he's hurt, he gets hurt even more. Then they decide, we got to send him down for a few days, and then they pinch hit him for a few times, which is so stupid. And then they eventually realize, now he's seriously hurt, and we got to put him on a DL when he could have been off the DL already in that timetable, but no. Sandy Alderson does not know how to use the disabled list. He likes to have his bench short-handed because he doesn't put people on the disabled list. As soon as somebody's hurt, just put them on the 10-day disabled list. It's only 10 days, and bam. In 10 days, they can come back. But instead, he likes to wait 8 or 9 days of having the player sit on the bench and not be able to play before he decides to put them on the disabled list. I don't understand why this guy does not know how to use the disabled list.
So I completely agree, and to play devil's advocate, I'll try to jump on the other side of this issue. The main problem I have with it is I feel like I'm in Groundhog's Day. The same thing happened last year. The only thing, if I'm trying to rationalize Sandy think here is, he looks at Cespedes. He goes, all right, this guy is the linchpin to this team. He's, our biggest bat. He's so important. So losing him is going to be really tough. Maybe we could keep him sort of around a little bit and still get something out of him while he rests up, and a little bit of rest and he'll be all right. The problem is, you watch a guy with power like his legs look like tree trunks. So they're very muscular. He drives a lot of power from his legs, this big, long swing. There's nothing you can do. If he tweaks that, keeping him on the bench and letting him play a little bit isn't going to make it any better. And what it's going to do is possibly make it worse, and has 2 years in a row now. So it's one of those things where, that's like an old school baseball idea. I remember way back when the Mets had Piazza, where Piazza would be, banged up with his wrist, but they wouldn't put him on the DL. They'd make him like super designated hitter type. He'd get all the pitch hits while they rested him. It's a stupid idea because you handicap your bullpen by having one guy, or you handicap your bench one way or the other. But worse than any of that, you're actually not helping the guy any, because he's not able to perform at the level he needs to. And the risk for him to making it much worse is, astronomical. There's no reason for it. I think it's sort of like this old, boomer idea. Rub some dirt in it, you'll be fine. The difference is the athletes today are much different than the athletes in, the 1960s and 1970s, where, trainers and all this other stuff, the amount of work, time, and effort and the strength coach and everything, like the muscles on a guy like Cespedes are like completely different range than some guy who was like a plumber in the offseason and played baseball in during the season in the 1960s. Sandy really needs to get a younger guy to advise him on that one.
Right, and the thing you mentioned with Piazza back in the day, that made more sense because, remember, John, up until like a few years ago, the disabled list was 15 days. So that means your guy was out half a month. Now, 10 days, you have to assume you have at least one off day in that mix. And, of course, in New York, or all of the United States really on the East Coast right now, is ton of rainouts. So it's not like they're missing all these games. So put him on the 10-day DL and he'd come back. But instead, they wait 9 days, then they put him on the DL, and then he has to rehab. And at that point, the guy's out for a month. And that's really not good. So he's out.
Also,
he's out, and it's ridiculous.
Also, what I don't like about that is now he hasn't had regular at-bats in a long time either. So now his timing and stuff's off as well. So now when he does come off the DL, he might have to do a couple rehab starts down in AAA or AA. And, he might get slow out of the gate if he has to try to get his rhythm and his timing back. It's not optimal for any party. Like you said, when it was the 15-day DL, it was a little different. Or if this is an American League team and he thinks that, Cespedes is only really going to hurt himself in the field, maybe he can just DH. But it's not the case. I think that mistakenly they look at guys like Edgar Martinez, who could really, he battled through injuries. It was just DH. So he could really, work his way through some stuff, where the National League is not like that at all. You really handicap yourself by having your best player essentially only pitch hitting.
Right, and now with him out, Lagares out, that leaves Bruce, who's not hitting, Conforto, and Nimmo to play every day for now. Conforto, Friday night, bounced back in a big way, couple RBIs, 4 for 4, and of course, Nimmo just continues to impress. The guy gets on base with absolute ease, and it's fantastic to have him leading off. Do you think, John, that Conforto has finally turned the corner, which I do think because, remember, he was supposed to not come back till May 1st, so he really didn't have too many at-bats before he started playing. And do you also think that now definitely having Nimmo play every day until Cespedes comes back is really going to be something that energizes the top of the lineup?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've probably had this talk a couple of times that Nimmo probably, he's not going to steal as many bases as you'd want as your leadoff guy, but his on-base percentage is just phenomenal. And you watch his at-bats, they're all very long. So even when he does create an out, he works counts very well. Between getting hit by pitches, walking, he's hitting. I think that's a very good spot. Hopefully he earns that spot permanently and they can shuffle some other parts around when Cespedes does come back. But Conforto on Friday night, I watched his the first hit he had in the first inning. It was a curveball on the outside, and instead of trying to pull it, which he would pull it, roll over right into the second baseman double play, in the inning, which we saw a little bit of in the beginning of the season, he went the other way with it. So it was this nice.
I think 3 of his hits went to the opposite field.
That's always a great sign. David Wright was one of those batters where when he started going the opposite way, you knew that he was getting out of his funk because it means they're seeing the ball earlier out of the guy's hand and they're making a decision on how they should swing at it rather than, curveball, I'm gonna wait on it and I'm gonna pull it, Jeremy Burnitz and just pull it into nowhere. Going the opposite way, that little just nice easy swing that flares it over the shortstop for an RBI single. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's the Conforto that we saw when he was red hot when he first came up.
Right. These lefty hitters, especially when the shift's going on, go to the opposite field. I mean, he didn't really go to the opposite field, but Adrian Gonzalez said after Conforto got on base at first, Gonzalez gets up and they put the shift on, and he bunts to third, and then he gets on easily. Conforto's on second, first and second, so that was a smart play. Just back to Nimmo real quick. You mentioned his ridiculous on-base percentage. His on-base percentage is .434. And if he had enough at-bats to this point in the season, which he does not, he would be leading the National League in on-base percentage. So I think that's pretty good, John. I think that's probably what the Mets want out of him.
Absolutely. He's one of those guys that you can just tell he loves being in the lineup every day. He has a real love of the game, and it shows. He's very emotional and invested. I love that as a fan. He's probably not the 5-tool player that the Harpers of the world are, but I think he's going to be a very, very good ball player. I think he's shaping up to be very good. And I think that injury that he got in the World Baseball Classic last year set him back from stealing, this job last year. So, maybe the wide open outfield that they have right now, we mentioned Bruce isn't hitting. We talked a lot about moving Bruce to first base, but how about Adrian Gonzalez, the guy that we were completely writing off before this season?
Well, that was only you. I said on this show many times, I love this signing. And I think he, for what he's worth in the Mets paying him $500,000, he's definitely worth it.
Dude, it's a steal. It's a steal. Look at his numbers. He's he's doing very well. First of all, he's an actual first baseman, so he's very
you can't even. I mean, the defensive aspect is the big thing because look at last year. Duda, he was awful. Flores isn't good at first base. Bruce didn't know how to play first base. It's day and night between last year and now this year with Gonzalez.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't had a really good defensive first baseman in a long time, probably since Ike Davis. But I tell you, it's so not only that, he's giving you these professional at bats. Is he what he was when he was an MVP candidate and he was a 7-time All-Star? No, but he's still very good. His batting average isn't great, but he's hitting. I think he has 5 home runs and 23 RBIs. So he's doing pretty well, and his defense is phenomenal. So that I'm in no rush to push Bruce to first base, which is a subpar defender there. And, I don't know if it's he got a new baby at home, he's not sleeping. I don't know what it is, but he's actually off to a very slow start. So it's about 25% away through the season so far. He's on pace for 55 RBIs on the year.
Right. This is a guy who had 36 or 37 home runs last year. I think he has 3 so far. So definitely not ideal. But like we said, as of now, he's going to play every day, which he already was, with Nimmo, with Conforto. The other thing that was weird, though, about Friday night was that I was surprised to see Conforto in center and Nimmo in left when Nimmo is actually a center fielder. I don't know, John. You think that's just something where they want to keep Conforto in center field because they figure Cespedes is coming back soon? Or you think it's just weird? I think the defense would be better with Nimmo in center.
I agree with you, but Conforto's bat's going to keep him in that lineup long term. And, as they see the outfield right now, Nimmo's the odd man out still. So you almost give up the defensive plus for that one game because Conforto's a young guy. He's just making the transition to center, and you want him to get used to that. So you want to play them there every day. That makes sense to me. In an optimal world or on paper, you would say, no, Nimmo's the natural center fielder. But no, it makes sense to me. I get it. And you don't sacrifice that much. I've actually been pretty happy with Conforto in center.
Conforto, he's very, very good defensively, but so is Nimmo. I really can't complain about them defensively. The other person, when we're talking defense, is Todd Frazier. Fantastic defender at third. Who knows when this guy's going to come back now, John? We're wishing Frazier. I wish that he comes back soon, but they call up Luis Guillorme, who's the best defensive shortstop, second baseman. Now he's playing third in Major League Baseball. He's literally the best. There's nobody better than him. That's how good he is defensively. And he's batting .600, by the way. He started off his career batting 3 for 3, 1,000. That doesn't happen too often. And it also opened the door, along with the injuries to Lagares and Cespedes, to have Phil Evans called back up. Phil Evans, who is a shortstop by trade, he plays third, he plays second, he plays first. And they call up like, you know what, Phil, go play left field. John, I know you're a big Phil Evans guy. What are your thoughts on this guy coming back to the majors?
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. He's very much like my favorite baseball player of all time, Joe McEwing, where he's one of these guys who's willing to play anywhere. He's very athletically gifted because he's played a ton of shortstop, but he's adapted to all these roles. He didn't look out of place at all. He didn't like Todd Hundley out in left field. He's good enough to play anywhere, which is phenomenal. And hey, he's hitting, which is great. He hit the leather off the ball in the minor leagues, but you don't really know. And like anything else, just like when Greg Forto comes up, a lot of times these guys will come up, they'll hit hit great, and then the league will get a book to learn them. It's all about adjustments. Baseball is all about adjustments. As soon as the league figures you out, you need to figure out the league, make an adjustment, and get back to it. So, I don't go crazy over them batting .600 now, but it is a good sign. I think you watch this guy play baseball and you go, wow, he has it. He has the it factor, which, you don't – the Mets have called up plenty of guys in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years that I've watched and go, ugh, they don't belong here. When I was watching
Danny Muno and Ty Kelly,
Nick Evans, Lobatone.
Lobatone finally sent down to the minors. He's stunk. Yeah, a lot of guys you don't know. You just don't know until they get there. Rosario, he's actually been hitting very well lately, so that's definitely an encouraging sign. Someone who came up right away, John, and we knew he was going to hit. In one of our early shows in the MetsCast series, I said, they got to call this guy up this season. He hits like crazy. Comes up to the majors. He hits, of course. He's starting in the wild card game. That's TJ Rivera. The guy knows how to hit. And it's unfortunate he got a Tommy John surgery last year because he would have been a big part of this team. I checked in with some sources to see what the deal is with him. And Mike Puma from the New York Post let me know that TJ Rivera should be back in July, or at least start playing some minor league games in July. So that's definitely a good sign. I know we both like TJ Rivera. Yeah.
TJ Rivera reminds me a lot of Daniel Murphy when he first came up.
Yes.
Where it was this guy who could just hit. We just didn't know where to stick him yet. So he's one of those kind of guys where his back needs to get in this lineup. We just need to figure out where to get him. So I hope that he comes back. He could do a little bit of rehab, but hopefully we're in it still, and he can help in, that late July, early August push for a playoff spot.
Right, and the other thing with the injury update is David Wright. Apparently he's going to be examined within the next 2 weeks, and if that appointment with the doctor goes well, he's supposed to resume his baseball activity, and if there are no setbacks, he could be back. Do you think this is just the same old story, or do you think there's a chance he might be back this season?
I think that this is his last go. I think that he's going to give it one last good try. If either he comes back and simply can't play, or if he's so hurt he can't make it back, I would say that this is probably it. Maybe he becomes this super DH guy kind of thing where he gets a lot of pitch hits and he plays off the bench, plays a couple days a week, that kind of thing. That's probably a perfect world. I don't know. Honestly, it's all about injuries, so I have no idea. I hope he does come back. I'd love to see him play. And,
I just want to say one inning where we get Wright at third base and Reyes at shortstop.
Yeah, one last time. But I tell you, I don't want to see him back here as a shell of himself because, that doesn't serve anybody any good. It doesn't serve him any good. It doesn't serve the team any good. So, I hope that they're straight with him. Hey, if you can't throw a baseball anymore because your shoulder and back so jacked up, maybe it's time to hang it up. Or at the very least, if he thinks he can still hit, maybe he needs to think about moving to an American League team. I don't see him doing that. I think that this is his last hurrah to try to get back to the show with the Mets, and I hope it works out. I hope he has a role on it the way he did on the 2015 team, where he was injured but he came back and he played and he hit pretty well.
Productive, yes. Had the big home runs in the playoffs.
That'd be phenomenal. Like if they could have a long playoff run with him involved in it, and he could sort of hang it up after that, that'd be great. He's not really, it's not like we're talking about Omar Vizquel at 44 trying to play shortstop. He's not physically that old. The problem is it's his back. The back is your center of all your muscles. It has to deal with everything. So his back being jacked up the way it is, it's really, really tough to come back from. Just look at what happened to his spine.
His spine is just like not. It's because of the stenosis. It's not cooperating. But we both hope he's back. It would be great to see him out there. We know at least he's taking the proper steps to come back. But John, where the heck is Anthony Swarzak? Is this guy witness protection or something? Sandy Alderson, who has an awful history of signing pitchers, especially relievers, gives this guy a contract for 2 years. He's making $5.5 million this year, $8.5 million next year, all for Anthony Swarzak to pitch 2 1/3 innings. All right? I mean, really, what was that worth the contract for his 2 games where he gave up a run? It's ridiculous. This guy is on the 60-day DL with his sore left oblique. It's unknown if he'll return. I don't think he's coming back this year. I think you give up on him. That was a terrible signing to this point.
Yeah, but I will say I think that the Vargas signing is worse. So not only,
like I said, Sandy Alderson does not know how to sign pitchers. Remember, he signed like Frank Francisco, Kyle Farnsworth, Antonio Bastardo. Ridiculous. This guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, to try to defend Sandy, bullpen guys a lot of the time are you throw it against the wall, you see what happens. A lot of the names you mentioned were over the hill, so I don't know what he was like. He was going after Farnsworth after Farnsworth got caught using steroids, and after his career was essentially over. The same thing with all those other guys. I did like who was the reliever we traded last year? The setup guy.
Addison Reed?
Yes, Reed.
But they traded for him, so that's why originally they got him. They didn't sign him. But they should have kept him. I don't know why they didn't. I mean, they traded him to the Red Sox, but that's who they should have signed this offseason. That's Swarzak.
Yes, that would have been very, very good.
But you know who they should have signed instead of Jason Vargas?
Who's that?
Bartolo Colon. The guy's back.
Sexy.
He's 2-1 with a 2.82 ERA. He had like a perfect game through 7 innings the other night in his last start. Guy's amazing.
Did you watch? I posted a GIF on Twitter. A comebacker hits him in the gut, and he laughs about it and picks it up and throws the guy out at first.
Yeah, the guy. I mean, he's got the cushion there to stop it. So phenomenal so far this season.
When I saw what he was doing down in Atlanta last year, I was like, oh, that sucks. His career's over. But hey, he had a long run, right? The fact that he's doing it again this year, this is what this guy does. He throws strikes. He goes after every single hitter. He actually fields his position very well for a big dude. I'm a big Bartolo Colon fan. I know he's gotten caught with the steroids a couple of times too. I don't think he really cares. It's one of those things where, hey, if he gets kicked out, he gets kicked out, but he's going to give it his all. I got it.
Right. He's 45, so I mean, he's just pitching. Yeah. He's just pitching for the fun of it now at this point. Yeah. So. But he's had a bounce back season. If the Mets stay in it, they should look to trade for this guy maybe at the deadline.
I don't know what you trade for him. Like a bag of baseballs. Like the guy's 45 years old.
You know what I give him? I give him Hansel Robles.
There you go. A straight Hansel Robles and cash.
There you go. So the last thing we're going to touch on is Jacob deGrom. He had the hyperextended elbow from swinging. They don't put him. Oh, he misses a start. He comes back. John, the guy pitches a scoreless first inning. Yes, he did walk 3 people and strike out 2 and get another guy out. He threw 45 pitches, and they pulled him from the game. I never seen anything like that. That was so stupid, and it probably ended up costing them the game.
I agree that it was way too early to pull him, but if you remember the mood around the organization when they thought he might be on the DL, it was like a black cloud. People thought if he went on the DL for that hyperextended elbow, people would like thrown in the towel, like this season's over. So I think Mickey Callaway saw that, and he's just going to be like, all right, I'm going to be crazy overprotective of this guy because the hopes and dreams of the fan base and the organization really are on his shoulders. Way more than they are on Syndergaard's.
Right.
I don't know if it's because deGrom's had a lot more, consistent success. I'm not sure why, but
well, here's the thing with deGrom. So on Friday night, his first start after being pulled after one inning, and probably keep in mind he had a scoreless inning streak through that. He proves once again that he is the best pitcher in New York by far, the ace of the Mets, one of the best pitchers in baseball. He goes 7 innings, he throws 100 pitches, strikes out 13. 13's his career high. He's done it a few times now. He looked great, and the funny thing was, though, every time he batted, he wasn't allowed to swing, so he was just up there to bunt. But they won the game. That's what he needed. And John, the guy he's an absolute stud. Remember, 2014 wins Rookie of the Year. 2015, guy's an all-star. He was amazing in the playoffs. He's very, very good, and he's definitely the most underrated pitcher in baseball.
Absolutely. He doesn't get a lot of respect. But so remember how on last episode we were talking about Doc Gooden's 84 year? So I was looking up some stats on Friday before the game on Friday. So before the game on Friday, deGrom had 55 strikeouts in 41 innings. That was putting him on pace for 10.5, I think, strikeouts per 9 for the year, which is the third highest among Mets ever so far. So that's where he is right now. But he was on pace to beat Doc Gooden in his magical 84 season. So if he can keep this streak up and keep pitching the way he is, I think he is an absolute Cy Young Award winner. And, he could be putting together one of those kind of years where, wow.
Right.
Just, amazing.
I mean, the only pitcher in my money, in the NL at least, that's better than him is Max Scherzer, who's just an absolute freak. But give me deGrom any day of the week, and I like my chances to win. Listen,
I like Scherzer. I think he's a really great ball player. He's one of those guys that took a bet on himself by not taking that deal when he was in Detroit, and it paid off phenomenally. So good for him. And he's been consistently great for a long time, which is hard to do. But this might just because I watch a lot more deGrom games because I'm a Met fan. But I think in any day of the week, if I need a single game to win, give me deGrom.
There you have it, and he proves it in the postseason. He proved it in 2015. So that's going to do it for this episode of the MetsCast. Let's hope that from the next time, until the next time we speak, nobody else gets hurt. Let's hope for the Mets to put together some wins here. And that's going to do it. Until next time, everybody, let's go Mets.